Hey, Sean here from SpeedCubeReview.com. Every year I do a mega comparison. I compare all the major cubes that are out on the market, and it has definitely changed from when I started. When I started, I could get the Shengshu Aurora, the DaYan Zanchi, the MoYu WeiLong version 2, and a few others, and compare them because those were all the ones that were out. But there are so many, and there's so many variations. So this year, I'm going to do this very methodically. I went through and figured out the current price, the settings, and which ones would be best at different price points and what you want out of it. Now, there are some I'm not going to talk about, and I'll go over why in just a second, but if you want to jump to any spot, I'm going to have time codes in the description or in the video, so you can just click around to find what you want. So if you want to skip all this talk and go to the end, go for it. If you want to hear a bit more detailed, go for that. But also, if you have a puzzle that's like the next cube or something, and you're like, is this good? Yeah, it's fine. Pretty much every major puzzle that's out today, even if you go and get like the cheapest one, I see people that are like, yeah, it's like $1. I bought it at some random store. And they're almost always rebranded decent puzzles from MoYu or QiYi or Yushin or DaYan. And you probably have an okay puzzle that will get you 10-second solves. But here are the top ones. Some ones I'm not going to talk about. I'm not going to go into the Tornado version 2. I'm not going to go into ones that are lower level ones from the same company, such as ones that have springs instead of maglev or Balco and whatnot. Things like the MGC Evo, good puzzle. Not going to really do anything with it because it's a good puzzle, but I don't use it, and not a lot of people use it, and it's not one of the major ones I want to compare. Or even things like Monster Go. I am bringing in Swift Cube because of Gan's budget puzzles. I think the Swift Cube is a much better purchase for the price than the Monster Go. And also, mini puzzles. I love using this puzzle. I have fairly large hands, and I still use a mini puzzle, and I get the same times on it than I would on a regular size. But I'm going to focus on what I think you all want and what is best for you and try to stay objective. With that said, if you would give me a moment, a minute of your time to rant a little bit. I rarely do that. If not, just jump ahead. So I started SpeedCubeReview.com because I wanted to bring something to the community that I felt was missing, which was objective reviews. Reviews that were not biased based on a store and could be organized in a way that was easy to observe. And then I was like, well, that's not enough, so I started the YouTube channel. And at the time, the YouTube channel were mainly younger people making them, and the older people, Crazy Bad, Red KB, they were starting to not make videos. So there's kind of the spot for me to get in there and to make videos for myself that I thought could be helpful for other people. I did not care about building a channel, which is why you see me not making TikTok reaction videos or things like that. Or I think there was like one that I made that I tried to actually make it good. So past couple years, I haven't made a lot of content because I've gone back to school. I've received a math endorsement, so I can be a math teacher as well, and that's where I'm going to probably be switching to later on in my life and doing that as my main job. Not that I'll be quitting this, because this isn't my full-time job. And there was a lot of good people out there making content. I'm like, okay, this is good. I don't like what I'm seeing now. Here's my rant comes in. There are some people who have made content strictly to get subscribers and viewers. And fine, good for them. But you run out of content pretty fast, and so it just becomes nonsense. And I'm not going to name names. There's one video I watch because I've been trying to catch up, see what other people are doing, and it's got over 1 million views, and it's just wrong. Like, there are things that are incorrect historically about puzzles, that are incorrect about, like, performance. It's very extreme views, if not just using very, what's the word I'm looking for, superlative, and saying things that are just extreme for the sake of having this very opinionated view because it gets a lot more clicks than someone being a little bit more objective about things. But because of that, it's creating this mindset and this culture of these new cubers that have a completely false idea of the cubing world and the community, and it's just detrimental. And then there's other things that I see where people using their channel, they build it up, they get a lot of subscribers, and then they post things that are not cube related that are also can be very offensive. I'm not going to say what I'm talking about. If you know, you know, but like I've posted some videos where I play music or I've played Mario Kart. That's not a big deal. But it's things that maybe parents go, oh, this channel's completely fine. Watch it. I'm not going to observe. You can enjoy it. It looks safe. And then they might not be happy with what they're saying. So I feel like there's a need for quality content again. And you might watch some videos of mine and be like, dude, you don't have the quality content. That's fine. It's not for you then. So this year, I'm going to be remaking a lot of my tutorials. 4x4 needs to be redone, 2x2 needs to be redone. I want to redo blind, even though I like my walkthrough solve. All of those I'm going to redo. I am going to be going through my algorithms. A friend of mine, Christian, has been really helpful with a lot of things and is going to be really helpful in putting together some stuff for you. So be on the lookout for that. But that's my little rant. I feel like something happened the last couple of years and I don't like it. And I'm going to try to come back and do a lot more, specifically because I want to bring what I think is needed in this community as an educator. And that's my view set of this. I'm coming in as an educator, not someone trying to make a living off of YouTube. Because that, honestly, the people I've talked to who do make a living with this, they get really frustrated and they get really annoyed with it and at times want to leave it, but they can't say that because that's their livelihood now. Anyways, back to the video. Okay, so I'm gonna go through cube by cube as far as price goes, tell you some things about them, some settings there are, and I'm mainly gonna look at the higher end version of them for most things except for this very first one, and we have the RS3 version 5. The RS3 has been the big just game changer in cubing. It was a good puzzle at a cheap price, and it's fluctuated a bit. You'll see another one in this video, but it still remains a really quality puzzle. It has a adjustment with the springs that you can adjust the elasticity, and at around $10, it's a really good puzzle. It's also middle of the road as far as size. It's closer to 56 millimeters, but it's about 55.5 for my measurement. And as far as weight goes, it's on the lower end. It's about 68.8 grams when I weighed it myself. And I weighed and measured each of these because there's a lot of websites that seem to just guess and put a random number down and then never actually fix it. So I'm giving you the exact numbers from my measurements, and I've checked and calibrated all my tools to make sure they are correct. So at $10, it has that spring adjustment. It's not UV coated, it has a matte plastic, and it does not have any magnet adjustment. The next one on this list at $13 is GaN's Swift Block. GaN came out with another budget line this year. Along with their Monster Go, they have Swift Block. And Swift Block puzzles are smaller. This one is 54.5 millimeters. It comes in at about 85 grams, which puts it honestly on the heavier side of newer puzzles. It's light compared to puzzles from 4 or 5 years ago, but 85 grams sort of that heavier end, and at $13 you do get spring compression built in, and that spring compression you can do by hand. So we've got a thing turned right there. The plastic, I believe it was a matte plastic, but I've used it so much it's a little bit glossy. It has a very stable GaN feel to it, but it is quite a stable puzzle even though it has the piece shape of a GaN puzzle. So it's a little more flexible than I would say the RS3, but not super crazy. Part of that's because of the magnet strength, which is quite strong. We have a little bit of a jump to the QiYi M Pro. This is an interesting one. QiYi came out with it seemingly as a budget puzzle, but it really stands out to me. And now they also have a ball core version. So they had the regular version, and then they came out with the maglev one, and now they have ball core, and it is UV coated and ball core. So we've got this nice gloss to it. It has a pretty solid click to it. It's a middle of the road size. It is 55.2 millimeters and 84.4 grams. So a little bit has some weight to it, and actually just I like a cube with a little bit more weight to it. I'll use really light ones when my arthritis flares up a bit, but other than that, I like a bit more weight to it. I find that it's a little bit nicer to solve and also a little bit quieter. So this puzzle comes in at around $18. Let me double check that. That seems really cheap. Yep, that's correct. The ball core is about $18. If you just get the maglev, that's all the way down to about 10 bucks. So UV coated ball core magnets. There are no adjustable magnets, but you do get, take the cap off, adjustable spring compression. All of these puzzles will have adjustable spring compression. I'm not really going to show you any more. I might talk about how some of them have a lot more than another one, but there's none that I found where the spring compression wasn't enough. So this one is a bit more flexible. This one honestly feels more the flexibility of a GAN puzzle than the Swift block does. And for a budget puzzle, this is definitely could be top tier. Very interesting release this year was the GuHong Pro. DaYan really came back with their Tangyun, and then they came out with their GuHong, came out with a few different versions, but the GuHong Pro is really interesting because its size is 54, 55, or 56. You have 3 different options, and you also have maglev or springs. Most of the time, maglev puzzles, the compression's a little bit lighter, and because of that, it feels looser and it feels faster, even though it's just because that compression's less. So just to kind of review, because I've said this before, maglev isn't actually faster, it's just because the compression is not as much. The maglev in the GuHong is a little bit stronger, it feels like. So you actually get a slightly slower puzzle with maglev. And if you're new to this, a slower puzzle doesn't mean slower solves. If anything, a slower puzzle can result in faster solves. This one that's 55 millimeters and maglev, I weighed in at 69.1 grams. So that is on the lighter side. It is one of the lightest ones available. I've put a bit of lubrication in this, so it feels a bit heftier, even though I don't think it adds that much weight. And the price is $20. It has a ball core. I've seen people say that this is UV coated. I don't believe it is. It doesn't. Some sites have it say it is, some isn't. I think it's just glossy plastic, which I absolutely love. And honestly, I think UV coating gives no more grip than just glossy plastic does. So glossy plastic, but with a ball core at about $20 in 3 different sizes. Okay, going on to the YS3. This also has another name I'll put in the video. I don't know if I've ever been able to actually pronounce it. Comes in at 55 millimeters as well, a little bit heavier at 84.5 grams. Comes in at $35 if you get the ball core and UV coated and maglev. No magnet adjustments. None of these have had magnet adjustments yet, but you get the same MoYu spring compression that you do on the RS3 and pretty much every other one. This one is a very stable puzzle. It looks very blocky. Someone actually commented in one of my videos yesterday that this puzzle looked really blocky. So it feels very blocky, but it's not blocky like a Rubik's brand. It just has a very stable shape. And I love that controllability. It works really well if you're looking for something that is just controllable and kind of an all-around works well. So if you don't want something that's too flexible, this just is something that's really nice, middle of the road. I gifted one of these to a former student of mine, and of all the puzzles, this is one that I feel like I could gift to someone and know that they're going to be okay with it no matter what preference they like. Okay, now we have the WeiLong version 9. I absolutely love the feeling of this puzzle. It's 54.4 millimeters, so it is small. Now, it's small as compared to how puzzles used to be, but we've gotten so used to it, people don't believe it's this small. They think that I'm either measuring it wrong, because some websites just say like 55 and call it there. It feels very bubbly. I have to keep it on a little bit tighter tensions than I usually do, or else I get some corner twists, but it reminds me of the HuaMeng Mini from like 8 years ago. And it's 76.4 grams, which is right in the middle of all the other ones. It is $42 if you get the ball core UV coated spring maglev, the maglev, but there are no magnet adjustments. So you get pretty much the same settings as you do of the YS3, but at about $7 more expensive. But this, as far as feeling, has got to be my favorite feeling of these. Tornado version 3. I've seen people talk about these cubes break a lot. Now, I've seen a few pictures here and there, but I don't know anyone personally who has had an issue, and I don't think it is actually any big issue compared to other puzzles or things happening. And I've used this puzzle a lot and have no issues there, so I don't think that's a problem. Plus, they've updated some stuff anyways. The adjustment on this for spring compression is one of my favorites. There's a little pull tab, and you click it to the right or to the left, depending on if you want the spring compression or you want the actual cube to be tighter or looser. And it works really well with a wide range of too loose for most people or too tight for most people. So it works really well. This is the first cube that has magnet adjustments. Magnets are in the corners that you adjust, and you just take a little screwdriver and turn that. This puzzle is UV coated. Now, UV coating for QiYi is quite a bit thinner than other companies. This just kind of feels like glossy plastic. If I didn't know it was UV coated, I'd just think it was glossy, as compared to something like this, which honestly feels like they brushed on some fingernail polish and then coated it that way. Same for GaN. Feels more like this, like a brush on instead of maybe a spray on. This one, with all the settings, the ball core, magnet adjustment, UV coated, comes in at $45. Now we have one of the most interesting ones of the bunch, the Super RS3 version 2. So the RS3 has been known as a budget puzzle. It's been known as like a $10 puzzle. And they came out with this one, and it's $48. It's $48. You don't have any magnet adjustment. Center is the exact same, but maglev as you do on the $10 version 5. You can tell the springs compared to the maglev. They use purple for the maglev. And unless you got the very first edition of stuff, but that's fixed now. But it's pretty much the same piece shape, quite a bit faster, a little bit lighter feeling than other puzzles around this range. So the Tornado version 3 was 81.9 grams. I weighed this one at 75.6. Little bit lighter, 1 gram less than the WeiLong. Almost 10 grams lighter than the YS3. And quite fast feeling. You get that stability you get with an RS3, but the swiftness that you get with some of the higher end ones, because it does have a ball core. It is UV coated. And on a side note, what's the use of a ball core when you already have magnets in it? Just adds a little bit more stability, and adds that stability without a click. And I personally, you can see a lot of magnets there to have them really high up, especially GaN puzzles. And when I would put magnets in my own puzzles, I'd put them a lot lower because I liked that attraction and not so much the click. Ball core kind of just makes that attraction. And plus, when you have magnets that attract and magnets that repel, you can get a little bit more movement. But the auto align isn't that big of an issue because you're not just letting the cube do that when you're solving anyways. Moving on. Then we have the GaN 12 or 13. So the GaN 12 or GaN 13 or even the GaN 11, they're all very similar. You get UV coating, they have ball core, they have adjustments for the corner magnets that attract to the center. So here's the first one where you have the magnets there, or the adjustment there at least. It has its own system for the depth and the compression. I have never been a big fan of the GaN feeling, well, at least not since the X. The GaN X, especially with these half-bright shades, this was my favorite. I absolutely loved this puzzle. It had a nice weight to it, and the only thing I guess that wasn't a big fan of was the 56mm size, but it was a great puzzle. So all these puzzles have been the same size. They've had slight tweaks to it, but these you can get around $60. They have everything, ball core, magnet adjustment, UV coated, and the magnet adjustment, like I said, were in the corner. The 14 came out, added a little more adjustment to it, where now you can adjust the edges. So you have corner adjustment and edge adjustment. It really can do pretty much everything. As far as what you need to adjust it to, it is just $60 for these ones, $90 for the GaN 14, with a ton of different adjustments that you can do with it, but it is 56mm, which is a big shortfall for me. And lastly on this list, also at around $90, is the Super WeiLong. It is, again, 54.4mm. And like I said, you can see it when I put them next to each other. This is a smaller puzzle. It's around 73.1 grams, about the same as the GaN puzzles. It has ball core, it has magnet adjustments similar to the GaN 11, 12, and 13, probably closest to the 13. UV coated, and same spring compression, magnet compression as you see in other puzzles. So that's my overview of these puzzles. So let's talk about what I think you should get. So I'm going to put these in 3 categories. We have the budget category. That's the $10 to $15 range, ones that will not break the bank, but you could get world record times on. And really that's between the RS3 version 5 and the Swift block. I've given the budget cube winner to RS3 since the RS3 came out. I don't know how long that is, but it has to be the majority of this channel, and I'm giving it to Swift block. If you want a budget puzzle that has, that's a good size, good weight, has spring compression to it, and that was the thing that often the RS3 won out for, Swift block's my new winner. Feels great. A lot of people want that GaN type feeling, and this will give it to you with also being a nice size. Like, I will often use this just as my regular performing puzzle that I'll use for fun. So Swift block for a budget puzzle. If you want something that is just super expensive, can do a bunch of different things, it's really between the Super WeiLong and the GaN 14. I will say without a doubt, I like the feeling and performance of the Super WeiLong a lot more. Am I disappointed that you don't even get a box or a bag with it like they give with almost everything else? Definitely. Do I feel like the watch is a complete waste of money? Definitely. But there are those options. If you want more setting adjustments, then you can get the 14 with the extra edge adjustment magnets there. But Super WeiLong, my vote, if you want a $90 puzzle and you just for funsies. But okay, what is my top pick this year? What is my pick if you want possibly the best of the best that you could go for and feel pretty solid using that puzzle? I've gone with the Tornado version 3 last year. I think, was it the year before as well? I don't know if that's been out for that long, but this was the winner last year of the one that you should get, and it's still a great option. But at still $45, I think there's something that is practically just as good, and that is the GuHong Pro. I would suggest getting the 55mm if you don't know which one you prefer. I like smaller puzzles, but I still go for the 55 for this one. And having a ball core adds a little bit of stability to it. Having adjustments, you have a lot of options. You can adjust by hand. And it's just a good, solid feeling puzzle. It's light enough where it's not going to hurt your hands. If you like lighter puzzles, that's perfect for you. And it's $20. You could get 4 of them before you even get to the price of the top tier MoYu or GaN ones. So there's a lot of options, but that's what I would recommend if you are getting one, the GuHong Pro. If they don't have that, the QiYi Pro is pretty much right there with it. Similar size, similar feeling, similar shape. It has UV coating. It does not have magnet adjustment, but it does have the compression and screw for the depth of the centerpiece. So they're a little bit tied, but because the GuHong Pro has multiple options, that wins out a little bit more and you can customize it a little bit more. So to review, Swift block for the budget line. $13 will get you a top tier cube produced by GaN. For around $20, GuHong Pro 55mm if you don't know which one to get with the ball core. If they don't have that one, the QiYi Pro would be the one that's basically right there as well at around $20. And if you want to just break the bank, my favorite feeling puzzle of all of these is the WeiLong version 9. I prefer it a little bit over the Super WeiLong, and also WeiLong version 9 is half the price, $42 versus $90. And I just prefer the feeling of this one, the bubbliness of it. But at $42, it's still quite expensive, no magnet adjustments, but I'm pretty happy with how the magnets feel. Hopefully this helped you out find what puzzles you want, and I'm excited to see what happens in 2024. I don't see a huge change in what is supplied, but I feel like more puzzles are going to have ball core, and We are going to get some new magnet adjustments. I think the price of puzzles are just going to be as wild as they are right now. My assumption is, even though these are $90, they're making it that so your $50 puzzle does not seem as expensive, but we'll see what happens. Thank you very much for watching. Please leave your thoughts and questions in the comment section below. Hit like, subscribe for more content like this in the future. As always, keep following SpeedCube Review for more news and reviews.